Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining Patrick and I for DrupalCon 2021. We are so excited to share with you today an experiment that we've been working a few years on now, the goals-based project planning framework. Really, this is a story about getting your team and your client in alignment around a shared vision and set of goals. So brief introductions. My name is Megan Davis, and I'm a program manager with Palantir.net.
And I'm Patrick Weston. I'm a senior engineer and technical architect.
So this presentation is structured in such a way that we start at a very high level and gradually get more granular, answering the how of how you implement this framework on your next project. We'll start by talking through some of the challenges and the opportunities. We'll then get into the narrative. So how can you use this framework to share the story of your project from inception through to delivery? We'll take a look at the inputs that are needed for this framework, and then we'll take a deep dive. How can you implement this framework today on your project? So let's begin by walking through some of the challenges we've all surely encountered and the opportunities that Patrick and I saw that really led to the development of this framework. Have you ever been a member of a team where you felt that you were perhaps working in a silo? Or you heard a client midway through a project say, "We talked about this in discovery," and you, in a very human way, forgot and didn't capture that conversation. Or perhaps you've noticed that the client appears to be lost or checked out during a long demo. Or perhaps more commonly, it's been a teammate on a project confused about what the long-term vision is that you're working towards and how your work fits into that vision. So if you answered yes to any of those questions, don't worry. We've all been there at some point, and they're common symptoms of a team or a team and a client not being in alignment around a shared vision and set of goals. Now, everything in this presentation really is centered around people aligning towards a common vision. And you're going to hear the word alignment a lot throughout this presentation. So let's start by discussing why we talk about alignment. Well, first and foremost, alignment is the most efficient way to progress through a project. Alignment helps to build trust between you and your teammates and the team and the client. It encourages open, transparent conversation about work. It allows leadership responsibilities to be shared, makes decision-making faster, allows the team to adapt quicker, and it leverages each teammate's unique skills and talents. Conversely, alignment minimizes the chance that a ball will drop, that a client will be confused by work, and it minimizes silos within a team. Now, alignment around a vision, a set of goals, and a strategy will take you far, but you also have to be able to deliver on your intent. And execution is a result of choices and decisions that are made, risks that are identified on a project and mitigated or lessened, and overall communication rhythms that are developed on a team. Now, we often refer to this at Palantir as telling the story of the project. And this is how we ensure that Palantir and the client team are always operating with the same information and the same understanding of where we are in the project. And we tell the story of the project through all of our communication channels. That is really what's keeping us in alignment from day one of the project through full execution. Now, oftentimes we progress through a discovery phase, which may be of varying lengths, and then we go straight into creating small incremental tickets in Jira. Now, the goals-based project planning framework asks you first to take a step back before any implementation tickets are created to establish the narrative of the project. You do this by first reviewing and grouping the goals that were identified through early sales, strategy, and technical work. And then those groupings are what start to make up individual epics in JIRA, and each epic should support the project vision. You then add acceptance criteria to that epic, which it doesn't have to be complex, aim to keep it simple. And all of this information is then reviewed and agreed upon by your team and by the client in the form of, say, a project charter. Now, this part of the project takes time, but the payoff is substantial. I'm going to walk you through how you use this framework to pull the narrative from discovery through delivery. And when Patrick picks up in a little bit, he'll be focusing on how. How do you do all of the above, and how do you establish that narrative? So we pull the project narrative through all of our Agile ceremonies. Now, we probably all know the goal of sprint planning is to move actionable, prioritized tickets out of the backlog and up into sprints. Now, during our sprint planning sessions with the client, Patrick, as our team product owner, would present a recommendation of work that we should focus our efforts on during a given sprint. And when we're going through sprint planning with the client, we always have the epics pulled up alongside the tickets so that we can speak to how individual pieces or groups of work advance our work overall towards achieving a particular goal for our client. And similar with backlog refinement, having our epics contain shared goals between Palantir and the client helps to both prompt and ease the conversation around priority and scope, because we're always focused on achieving a set of agreed upon goals. The conversation is much easier to navigate if a client asks for work that is outside the scope of the project, because you can refer back to the epics which contain the project goals. Our sprint demos, we also attempted to restructure our sprint demos. So now we show our work by grouping them into meaningful batches as they align and support our epics. We speak to what the client last saw from us, and then how this new piece of work that we're presenting advances our shared goals and where we are going next. So we pull this goals-based epic framework directly into our demo scripts.
Thanks, Megan. So Megan's talked through the advantages of getting to a point of alignment using the goals-based project planning framework. But how do we take the discovery deliverables and inputs in a project and translate that into epics? In this section, I'll show a high-level overview of the process and how we can take our discovery process and turn it into epics that tell the story of the project over time. Goals-based epics are really intuitive at face value. This is hard work, and it's a lot of time up front, but the payoff can be really large. I'm going to walk you through the steps of how to do this, but at the end of the day, keep it simple. Our goal is to bring to light all of the information we have and categorize it in a meaningful way. In this chart, you can see the beginning of the process to build out your set of epics for use throughout the project. We'll walk through this together. First, on the left-hand side, we have our strategy and other early project deliverables. This list is not meant to be comprehensive, nor is it meant to be limiting. These are the project deliverables we had on our project, and they might differ for yours. You might have more or less. The important thing to do is to gather all of the information you have. Our project leadership met with this information, and we worked to distill it into buckets. We'll dive into this section in particular in a little bit, but the idea is to find meaningful overlap between your project's goals and requirements. Lastly, we name the buckets and combine the information into an epic. In Jira, our ticketing software, an epic is a large body of work that consists of stories or tickets. Epics are almost always delivered over multiple sprints. Now that we've built out a list of epics, utilizing our project information, we discuss this with the larger project team. In this discussion session, we validated the goals and tasks associated with our epics. We discussed if the set seemed comprehensive and if all of the buckets made sense. Once we had alignment with the internal project team, we worked to build alignment with the client team as well. We discussed things with the client in a more detailed way, including the epics on the project. We asked similar questions as we did internally. Do the epics make sense? Are they comprehensive of the site's functionality? Is there anything there that we're missing? Lastly, once we're in alignment, we build out and use the epics throughout the project, in our agile ceremonies, in our ticketing software, and in any reporting we have with the client. So let's get granular. Let's dive into some details of this process that require some additional work. In particular, I want to focus on the section in this orange box here, where we distill our early project deliverables and find overlap. We'll dive into how we did this on our project, and you can take it and try to apply it to your project as well. So this slide shows an example of our business goals workshop that we ran with the client. I'm not going to go into details on how we ran the workshop, but the important thing to remember is that you should try to take any information you've gathered from the project. This particular business goal in the slide focuses on improving findability of providers, locations, and services. It's in the orange box once again. Our client called this systemness, the idea that the health system should act as a cohesive unit. We gathered information on this particular business goal and the functionality that supports it, and also what the audience cares about related to this goal and how we can track it. We also ran an audience goals workshop. In this particular example, we're focusing on potential new patients. Once again, we looked at various goals and priorities for this audience. From these two workshops, we worked as a project team to categorize audience goals and business goals together. The first step towards distilling the information down, and this was also an early source of inspiration for taking the alignment work through to the epic. On this slide, we're focusing again on improve findability. It's once again in the orange box. We've added the audience goals that relate to this in the table. Again, I'd like to reiterate that you're just assembling any of the project research you have on projects. You don't necessarily have to change things to fit into this model. Just take the research you have and try to organize it in a way where the different pieces connect to each other. We also did some top tasks work. This is where we survey users on what they do on the site. In this particular example, we're looking at the top 50% of the tasks that users take on the site. And in this example, task number 8, the right place to go for help, which is hospital, doctor's office, urgent care, virtual care, that is related to the business goals and audience goals that I've shown before. So here we're tying the thread through all of the research that we have. So we've seen some of the goals and features related to finding a location on the website. So now we're going to move into the next step of the process, naming our epic and pulling the information that is relevant to that epic into it. So we met with the client in a project charter session, and we filled in this epics slide that we presented to the client. This isn't the comprehensive list, but is rather a subset of the epics. I've outlined the section in orange related to finding a location, so you can see that all of the previous information from the business goal session, audience goal session, and top tasks is present here. We reviewed the set of epics for the client. Once we were in alignment, we performed the last step of the epic creation process, which is writing the acceptance criteria for the epics at large. So here's our epic where we pull in all of that information. You can see that we list out our different sets of research, our business goals, audience goals, and top tasks. Additionally, we also list out acceptance criteria. So for the different tasks that the users are going to be taking on the website, we wrote up a set of steps that can either pass or fail depending on if the user can complete that. In this case, in Jira, we can put a little X around an item if it can't be completed. And the idea is that over time, as the epic progresses, those X's would slowly change to check marks. Once all of the acceptance criteria is met, the epic has been finished and we can close it out. We also assign epics to particular tickets on the project. The important thing to note here is that each ticket is assigned to an epic. It's the portion at the end in the kind of colored box. If you're having a hard time figuring out what epic a particular piece of work or a ticket aligns with, that should probably prompt a conversation around why you're even doing that work, and if you should be doing it in the first place. You really want your tickets to support the epics and vice versa. So thanks. We want to hear from you. If you try out this framework and encounter any challenges, let us know. Our email addresses are listed on the screen. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or if you have any feedback on how to improve the process. And we really encourage you to do that so we can share it with the community. Thanks for your time.